Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this is my 12.9-inch iPad Pro. I didn't realize how old it was until I looked it up. I thought it was only about a year old, but it's actually over 2 years old, and I use this as my main computer. Since it's come out, this is my main go-to device when I'm not editing videos. So I use this keyboard cover with it. The keyboard cover is held up really well. I know some people were having some issues with it, but I've had none. I've spilled things on it, and it's waterproof basically, and it just seems to work fine. No issues whatsoever. All the keys are working fine. Some people have asked me about that, but with this one I haven't had any issues whatsoever. Now, with the iPad itself, I think it feels current and new just because they haven't improved or changed the design at this point for the 12.9 inch. They did come out with the 10.5, but this is my preferred size between those two. And the one thing this doesn't have, where it got refreshed, is it doesn't have the ProMotion display, and it also doesn't have the latest processor in it, but it doesn't feel slow. But let's first talk about the design. I think the size is really good, especially if you're used to a MacBook Pro, a 13-inch MacBook Pro. The display is 12.9 inches across from corner to corner, and it really is a great size. It's basically a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro 13-inch. And the size of the device overall is comfortable. You've got bezels that, while some people think it's a bad idea to have bezels, on an iPad it's a good idea because you want some place to put your thumb. So if you're holding it like this, it's a little bit heavy, so you want to put your thumbs here when you're using it sideways. This is the way I use it most of the time if I'm not using it with the keyboard. I'll hold it this way if I'm watching a movie or whatever I'm using it with or using it for. And I think it's a good idea to have these bezels. There are bezels here, of course, but your thumbs cover a little bit of the screen. It's not that big of a deal, but I think the design is nice and pretty spot on. Now, I don't use a case on these, and since I do these long-term reviews, I don't use a skin or anything else. If I wasn't doing these reviews, I probably would use a skin on the back, but basically I've used it with nothing on the back, and it does have a little bit of wear. The back of it has a few scratches. I'm not sure where those came from, but it doesn't sit on anything other than a desk like this that I'm filming on, or my nightstand, or in a backpack if I'm carrying it around somewhere. That's the only place it ever is, so I'm not sure what scratched it, but it does have some wear, and these space gray colors tend to wear over time as far as the outside of them if you don't protect them. So if you look here, and I'll tilt this at the right angle, you'll see there's some wear marks here, and this is just from setting it down. So you've got some wear here, some wear here, some wear over here, and none over the camera lens though, so that part's nice. You do have a few scratches on the Apple itself, and it's just typical wear from using it and setting it down. It's been 2 years. I use it almost every day for 2 years, and I've had no issues. I had no issues with the lightning port wearing out, anything like that. All the speakers work fine, and it's just held up really well. Now, the speed still feels fine, and despite Apple's recent issues with batteries on older devices, this doesn't slow down and doesn't feel slow, and that's mainly because the iPads have such big batteries. You don't experience that the same way. So the battery basically takes up the entire center, and they leave space on the sides for resonance chambers, and that's about it. So you've got all of this space for a battery, and it just doesn't wear down like a normal iPhone would. And you don't typically use iPads the same way you use your iPhone either. So you can do a lot of things with this, and to be quite honest, if I wasn't using my MacBooks to edit, my MacBook Pro that I'm editing this video on, I would probably just use this device all the time. Now, you can edit 4K video if you're using something like LumaFusion. This is fully capable of editing 4K video, no problem, but I find it a little bit more cumbersome using touch controls for that, and even the keyboard, than I do if I'm using a MacBook, for example. So this, in my opinion, would benefit greatly from a better touch interface with something like Final Cut Pro, but this actually works quite well, LumaFusion. So you could do that on here, no problem. And I've also edited photos on here that I've used for my thumbnails of these videos using Pixelmator. So it's plenty fast to do most things that you want to do. Now, you can do things at the same time, multiple things. So LumaFusion, maybe I want to bring in the App Store. With iOS 11, we have this little bit newer interface, so you can bring it in like this, or just pull down and split screen it. So you realistically can edit 4K video, look at a web page, or maybe watch a video at the same time. So you've got those options, and you'll see it's still pretty fast. There's not really any slowdowns with iOS 11 that I've experienced. There has been the occasional crash of an app or bugs, but that's to be expected pretty much on any device once in a while. Even with the latest updates of iOS 11.2.1, this feels fine and fast. I have no issues with it whatsoever. Now, the battery still lasts me no problem. 10 hours if I'm just watching video, sometimes a little less if I'm doing other things, but let's take a look at the battery, and you'll see right now I'm at 66%. And if I scroll down, I'm at 3 hours and 34 minutes. So we're on track to hit about 10 hours, depending on what we're doing or what I'm doing. And I've got 25 hours and 17 minutes of standby. The standby on this is amazing. So most of the time I'm using this with YouTube or maybe a movie. Occasionally some other things like games. Maybe I'm playing, where is it here? Bridge Constructor Portal. And my apps get automatically installed on here. I don't necessarily use them all, but the games feel fine and fast. I don't have any issues playing this game. I can build bridges, no problem, and whatever you want to do. If you haven't tried this game out and you like Portal, you definitely should. I think it's about $5, something like that, but it's worth it in my opinion. I'm at level 20, and it's pretty challenging, but it combines Bridge Constructor, which is a fun game, with Portal. It's not a paid advertisement or anything. I just thought it was a lot of fun. So I've been playing that. I have no issues playing it on here, and I don't find it to be slow or anything like that. And I think the great thing about this iPad Pro, now that it's over 2 years old, is that it's less expensive to pick up. I've seen them in Best Buy in open box form for about $500. I've seen them refurbished from Apple for around that price. This one is the larger size 128 gigabyte model, but if you don't need all of that space, you can get them for less as well. So I think it's a really great buy, especially if you still want to pick one up and you don't want to spend the $1,000 that you will on the newest ProMotion display. And the ProMotion display is definitely better, and the speed of the new processor is better, but this is still a very capable device. But I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. Do you use one of these? Do you use the 9.7 inch? What do you think about it? You could use the pencil with it. I don't really use the pencil with it too much. Once in a while I will, but I use that more with the 10.5 for more task-oriented things. This is more of what I use every day, and if I didn't do this YouTube channel, I probably would just use this most of the time, if not all the time. Let me know your thoughts about it, though, in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.